Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of Earth's Hope and watched the alien space station grow larger on the main screen. The station looked like a giant metal flower with 12 arms reaching out into space. Each arm belonged to a different alien race that made up the Zephyrian Alliance. This was the day humanity had dreamed about for centuries. First contact with intelligent life from other worlds. Distance to station? Morrison asked his navigation officer. 2,000 kilometers and closing, sir, came the reply. Morrison turned to look at Ambassador Kate Sullivan, who stood behind him studying data on her tablet. She wore the formal blue uniform of Earth's diplomatic corps. Her face showed calm confidence, but Morrison could see the tension in her shoulders. The weight of representing all humanity rested on her. "Are you ready for this, Ambassador?" Morrison asked. Sullivan looked up and smiled. "As ready as anyone can be for the most important day in human history." Behind her stood the rest of the diplomatic team. Dr. Amy Chen, a young scientist who specialized in alien biology, checked her equipment one more time. Communications Officer Ryan Parker monitored incoming signals from the station. Diplomatic aide Lisa Martinez reviewed the cultural briefing files on her computer. "Incoming transmission from the station," Parker announced. "Put it on screen," Morrison ordered. The main display changed to show an alien face. The creature had gray skin that seemed to shimmer like metal. Its eyes were large and black with no visible pupils. When it spoke, its voice came through the translation device as smooth and emotionless. "Welcome, beings of Earth. I am Communication Officer Zell of the Zephyrian Alliance. You are cleared to dock at Port 7. A delegation awaits your arrival." "Thank you," Sullivan replied. "We look forward to meeting with your representatives." The transmission ended and Morrison gave orders to his crew to begin docking procedures. As Earth's Hope moved closer to the station, they could see other ships attached to the docking arms. Some were long and thin like needles. Others were round like bubbles. One ship seemed to be made entirely of what looked like living coral. 12 different species, Chen said softly. "This alliance has been working together for thousands of years. And now they want to meet us," Martinez added. The docking process took 30 minutes. Morrison felt the slight bump as Earth's Hope connected to the station. Green lights appeared on his control panel, showing that the connection was secure and that air was flowing between the ship and station. "Atmosphere checks out," Parker reported. "It's safe to breathe over there." Morrison stood and straightened his uniform. "Ambassador, your team is cleared to proceed. I'll stay here and monitor communications." Sullivan nodded and gathered her team. They walked through the ship's corridors to the airlock. Morrison watched them go, feeling worried. Something about this felt wrong, but he could not say what. The airlock opened and the diplomatic team stepped onto the alien station. The corridor was wide and tall, with walls that glowed with soft blue light. The air smelled strange, like metal and ozone. Strange symbols covered the walls, probably writing in different alien languages. A group of aliens waited for them. Sullivan had studied pictures of the different species, but seeing them in person was different. The Velkari were tall and thin, their bodies made of something that looked like living crystal. Light patterns moved under their transparent skin as they communicated with each other. The Thraxians looked like giant insects with 6 arms and compound eyes. Their movements were quick and precise. The Neridians wore special suits filled with water, their fish-like faces visible through clear helmets. At the front of the group stood High Consul Vex Thara, the leader of the Alliance delegation. She was a Velkari, and her crystal body pulsed with golden light as she stepped forward. "Welcome to Kepler 7 Station," she said through a translation device attached to her chest. "We have waited long to meet the people of Earth." "Thank you for this opportunity," Sullivan replied. "Humanity is honored to be here." Vex Thara gestured for them to follow. The group walked through more corridors until they reached a large round room. The walls were transparent, showing the vast space outside and the ships docked to the station. A large table sat in the center of the room with chairs of different sizes and shapes for the various species. "Please sit," Vex Thara said. "We have much to discuss." The next 2 hours passed quickly. The aliens asked many questions about Earth and human society. They seemed especially interested in human biology and psychology. Dr. Chen answered technical questions about human anatomy. Parker explained Earth's communication systems. Martinez talked about human art and culture. Sullivan felt good about how the meeting was going. The aliens seemed friendly and genuinely curious about humanity. They shared information about their own worlds and cultures. The Vilcari lived on a planet where the ground was made of crystal that amplified thought. The Thraxians built massive hive cities underground. The Neridians had vast underwater kingdoms in the deep oceans of their world. But then the mood changed. Vexithara's light patterns shifted to a darker color, and the other aliens became quiet. "We have learned much about your species today," Vexithara said. "Based on our analysis, we have a proposal for humanity." Sullivan leaned forward. "We're listening. Earth will become a protectorate world under the Zephyrian Alliance. You will surrender your planetary government to our authority. In return, we will provide you with advanced technology and protection from hostile forces in this galaxy." The room became very quiet. Sullivan felt her heart start beating faster. This was not what they had expected. "I appreciate the offer," Sullivan said carefully, "but humanity values its independence. We would prefer to work with the Alliance as equal partners." The aliens exchanged glances. Their various forms of communication created a strange mix of light patterns, clicking sounds, and bubbling noises. Sullivan could tell they were discussing something, but she could not understand what. "I'm afraid that is not possible," Vexthera said finally. "Your species shows characteristics that make independent development dangerous for galactic stability." "What kind of characteristics?" Chen asked. "That will be explained later," Vexithara replied. "The decision has been made. Earth will accept protectorate status or face the consequences." Sullivan stood up slowly. "Are you threatening us?" "We are offering you a choice," Vexthera said. "Submit willingly or be forced to submit." Suddenly, the doors to the room opened and alien security forces entered. They carried weapons that hummed with energy. The humans found themselves surrounded by armed guards from multiple species. "This is not a negotiation," Vexithara explained. "This is an evaluation. We needed to study your species before making our final decision about Earth's future." Morrison's voice crackled through Sullivan's communication device. "Ambassador, I'm reading massive energy signatures around the station. It looks like we're surrounded by warships." Sullivan looked at her team. Chen's face was pale with shock. Parker was slowly reaching for his emergency transmitter. Martinez stared at the alien weapons in fear. "You've made a mistake," Sullivan said to Vexithara. "Humanity will not submit to your authority." "That remains to be seen," the alien leader replied. "Take them to detention level 5. Prepare the fleet for departure to Earth." The security forces moved closer. Sullivan realized they had walked into a trap. The peaceful first contact meeting had been a lie from the beginning. Earth was about to face an invasion, and there was nothing they could do to stop it. The alien guards pushed the human delegation through narrow corridors deep inside the station. Ambassador Sullivan tried to memorize the route, but the twisting passages all looked the same. The walls here were darker, made of some kind of black metal that absorbed light. Emergency lighting cast red shadows that made everything look threatening. "Move faster," growled one of the Thraxian guards. Its voice came through a translation device that made it sound like grinding metal. Dr. Chen stumbled as they walked down a steep ramp. A Vilcari guard caught her arm with surprising gentleness, but its crystal fingers felt cold against her skin. The touch sent light patterns racing up the alien's arm, and Chen noticed other Vilcari guards backing away slightly. They reached a heavy door marked with symbols in multiple alien languages. One of the Neridian guards pressed its webbed hand against a scanner, and the door slid open with a hiss. Beyond was a detention area with 4 cells built into the walls. "Inside," the lead guard ordered. The humans were pushed into the largest cell. The door sealed behind them with a sound like breaking glass. Sullivan immediately went to the transparent barrier and pressed her hands against it. "You cannot hold us here," she called to the guards. "Earth will demand our return." The guards did not respond. They took positions around the detention area and activated some kind of communication silence field. The room became unnaturally quiet. Captain Morrison's voice had been cut off during the march to the cells, but Sullivan knew he would try to contact Earth. The question was whether any message could get through the alien technology blocking their communications. Meanwhile, on the bridge of Earth's Hope, Morrison paced back and forth like a caged animal. His communications officer had lost contact with the diplomatic team 30 minutes ago. "Sir, I'm detecting massive energy buildups around the station," reported Lieutenant Barnes from the sensor station. "It looks like ships are powering up weapons systems." Morrison moved to the sensor display. What he saw made his blood run cold. The station was surrounded by alien warships that had been hidden behind some kind of stealth technology. As he watched, more ships appeared, dropping their camouflage systems. "How many?" Morrison asked. "I count over 300 vessels, sir, and they're all armed." Morrison realized the terrible truth. This had never been a diplomatic meeting. It was a trap, and Earth's hope was caught in the middle of it. He turned to his communications officer. "Send an emergency message to Earth immediately. Use all available channels. Sir, the aliens are jamming most frequencies. I can get a basic signal through, but it will take weeks to reach home. Do it anyway. Tell them we've made contact with a hostile alien alliance. Tell them to prepare Earth's defenses." As the message was transmitted, Morrison wondered if it would make any difference. 300 alien warships could probably destroy Earth's entire defense fleet in a matter of hours. Back in the detention cell, the 4 humans sat on hard benches built into the walls. The cell was clean but sterile, with no windows except the transparent barrier facing the corridor. A small panel in one corner provided water and basic food, though none of them felt like eating. "I should have seen this coming," Sullivan said, staring at the floor. "The way they asked those questions about our psychology and biology. They were studying us like lab animals." "It's not your fault," Martinez said quietly. "How could anyone have known?" Dr. Chen stood up and moved to the barrier. She could see alien guards in the corridor, but they kept their distance from the cell. 2 Valkyrie guards stood at the far end of the corridor, their crystal bodies pulsing with nervous light patterns. "Ryan, do you still have your portable computer?" Chen asked. Parker pulled a small device from his jacket pocket. "Yeah, but it's not connected to anything. The aliens cut all our communication links. Try scanning for wireless signals anyway. Sometimes security systems have gaps." Parker activated his computer and began searching for network access points. After several minutes, he looked up with surprise. "I'm getting something. It's encrypted, but I think I can break through." He worked for 20 minutes, his fingers moving quickly over the small keyboard. Finally, the screen changed to show alien text with translation software running automatically. "I'm in," Parker whispered. "This is incredible. I can access their internal communication network." "What are they saying?" Sullivan asked. Parker read through several message streams. His face grew pale as he translated the information. "They're planning to invade Earth within 72 hours. The fleet here is just the advance force. They have over 1,000 ships positioned throughout this sector." "Dear God," Martinez breathed. "There's more," Parker continued. "They're not planning to occupy Earth. They want to strip mine the entire planet for resources. They're going to relocate the human population to what they call reservation worlds scattered across their territory." Sullivan felt sick. "We have to warn Earth somehow. Captain Morrison already sent a message, but it will take weeks to get there. The invasion will happen long before Earth receives any warning." Dr. Chen had been listening to the guards talking in the corridor. The translation device in her ear was picking up fragments of their conversation. "They keep mentioning something about human biochemistry," she said. "I think our medical scans worried them about something." "What kind of thing?" Sullivan asked. "I can't tell. They use scientific terms that don't translate well, but they seem both fascinated and disturbed by something they found." Parker looked up from his computer. "I found the scientific reports they filed about us. Most of it is too technical for me to understand, but there's a section marked anomalous emotional responses that they flagged as requiring immediate attention." "Emotional responses?" Martinez said. "What's wrong with our emotions?" "According to this, most species in the galaxy fall into 2 categories," Parker explained. "Either they're completely logical, like the Valkyrie, or they follow strict behavioral programming like the Thraxians. Humans are different. We can be logical when we need to be, but we also have strong emotional reactions that can override logic." "And that scares them?" Sullivan asked. "Apparently. They call it psychological volatility and consider it a threat to galactic stability." Chen moved closer to the barrier, trying to hear more of the guards' conversation. The Valkyrie were discussing something called historical precedent and ancient warnings. Their light patterns showed what looked like fear. "There's something else," Chen said. "They mentioned something about the Water of Sorrow and the First War. I think they're referring to some kind of historical event." Before anyone could respond, the corridor filled with new aliens. High Consul Vexthara approached the cell, flanked by guards from all 12 species of the Alliance. Her crystal body pulsed with dark red light. "You will be transported to the Alliance capital world for processing," she announced. "Your ship will be destroyed, and the invasion of Earth will proceed as planned." "You're making a terrible mistake," Sullivan said, standing up to face the alien leader. "Humanity can be a valuable ally to your alliance." "Your species is too unpredictable," Vexithera replied. "You exhibit emotional patterns that threaten the order we have built over thousands of years." "Our emotions make us stronger, not weaker," Sullivan argued. "They drive us to protect those we care about, to explore the unknown, to create art and music and literature." "They make you dangerous," Vexithara said firmly. "History has shown us what happens when emotionally volatile species are allowed to spread through the galaxy." "What history?" Chen demanded. "What are you so afraid of?" Vexithara's light patterns shifted to an even darker red. "That is not your concern. The decision has been made. Earth will be harvested and your people will be relocated to worlds where they can be properly supervised." She turned to the guards. "Prepare them for transport. The processing ship leaves in 6 hours." As the aliens walked away, the 4 humans sat in stunned silence. Earth was doomed and they were powerless to stop it. Somewhere in space, 1,000 alien warships were preparing to destroy everything they had ever known. Parker continued working on his computer, desperately searching for some way to contact Earth or disable the alien fleet. But their technology was far beyond anything humans had developed. "There has to be something we can do," Martinez said, her voice breaking slightly. Sullivan put her arm around the younger woman's shoulders. "We'll find a way. We have to." But privately, Sullivan wondered if they were already too late. In 72 hours, Earth would face the most devastating attack in human history, and no one would see it coming. 6 hours had passed since High Consul Vexithara's announcement. The humans sat in their cell, watching alien guards prepare for their transport to the processing ship. Through the transparent barrier, they could see Thraxian workers loading equipment onto hovering platforms. Everything moved with mechanical efficiency, like watching an assembly line designed to process cargo instead of living beings. Ryan Parker had not stopped working on his computer. His eyes were red from staring at the screen, and his fingers moved constantly across the small keyboard. Sweat beaded on his forehead as he tried one access code after another. "Anything?" Ambassador Sullivan asked. Parker shook his head. "I can read their communications, but I can't break into their command systems. Their security is too advanced." Dr. Chen sat against the wall studying the behavior of the alien guards. She had been taking notes on everything she observed, hoping to understand more about these species that held humanity's fate in their hands. "They're afraid of something," she said quietly. "Look at how they position themselves. The Velkari never come closer than 10 meters to our cell. The Neridians keep their backs to the wall when they walk past us." "Afraid of what?" Lisa Martinez asked. "We're locked in here. We can't hurt anyone." "I don't think it's physical fear," Chen replied. "It's something else. Something about us makes them nervous." Sullivan stood up and walked to the barrier. A Thraxian guard was passing by, its 6 arms carrying various pieces of equipment. When it saw her watching, it quickened its pace and hurried away. "They won't even look at us directly," Sullivan observed. "In all my years of diplomacy, I've never seen behavior like this." Parker suddenly looked up from his computer, his face pale. "I just intercepted a new communication. They're not waiting 72 hours anymore. The invasion has been moved up to 18 hours from now." The words hit the group like a physical blow. Martinez put her hands to her face. Sullivan closed her eyes and took a deep breath. Chen stopped writing in her notebook and stared at the wall. 18 hours, Sullivan repeated softly. "Not enough time for our warning to reach Earth, even if Captain Morrison found a way to boost the signal." "There's more," Parker continued, his voice shaking. "They're planning to broadcast the invasion live to us. They want us to watch Earth fall before they take us for processing." Martinez looked up, her eyes wide with horror. "They're going to make us watch our home planet be destroyed?" "According to this communication, yes. They believe that witnessing the futility of resistance will make us more cooperative during the relocation process." Chen threw her notebook across the cell. "These aren't just conquerors. They're monsters." For the next hour, the humans sat in silence. Each was lost in their own thoughts about home, family, and everything they were about to lose. Sullivan thought about her daughter back on Earth, who was probably getting ready for school and had no idea that alien warships were positioning themselves around the solar system. Parker thought about his parents, who had been so proud when he joined the space program. Jen thought about her research, all the discoveries she would never make, all the questions she would never answer. Martinez thought about her younger brother Danny, who was starting college next month. She had promised to bring him back something amazing from the first contact mission, maybe an alien artifact or a picture of an alien world. Instead, she would never see him again. The silence was broken when 3 large screens descended from the ceiling of their cell. The guards in the corridor stepped back as the displays activated, showing a view of space that slowly focused on a small blue and white planet. Earth. No, Sullivan whispered. The image on the center screen showed Earth from orbit, looking peaceful and beautiful against the black of space. The left screen displayed what looked like a tactical map, with hundreds of red dots surrounding the planet. The right screen showed text in multiple alien languages, with translation software providing an English version at the bottom. Fleet deployment complete. All ships report ready status. Invasion commences in 17 hours and 43 minutes. Parker buried his face in his hands. They're really going to do it. They're going to destroy everything. The center screen changed to show live feeds from alien scout ships positioned near Earth. The first image was of New York City, with its familiar skyline gleaming in the morning sun. People walked on the streets below, going about their daily lives completely unaware that they were being watched by hostile aliens. The second feed showed London, where it was afternoon. The Thames flowed peacefully through the city, and Big Ben stood proud against the cloudy sky. The third feed showed Tokyo at night, its neon lights creating a beautiful pattern across the urban landscape. "Look at them," Martinez said, her voice barely above a whisper. "They have no idea what's coming." The feeds continued to cycle through major cities around the world. Los Angeles, Moscow, Sydney, Cairo, Rio de Janeiro. Each image showed normal life continuing as usual. Children playing in parks, people shopping at markets, families eating dinner together. Dr. Chen watched the feeds with a scientist's eye, trying to memorize every detail of the home she would never see again. 8 billion people, she said.
8 billion human beings who will die or be enslaved because we failed. Sullivan felt the weight of responsibility crushing down on her.
She had been chosen to represent humanity because of her diplomatic skills, her ability to find peaceful solutions to complex problems. But there was no solution to this. The alien fleet was too powerful. Earth was unprepared and the invasion would succeed. "This is my fault," Sullivan said. "If I had been smarter, if I had seen through their deception earlier, maybe I could have found a way to warn Earth in time." "No," Parker said firmly. "This was planned long before we got here. They were always going to invade. The meeting was just an excuse to study us first." The images on the screens continued to change. A feed from Antarctica showed research stations isolated in the white wilderness. A view from space showed the International Space Station, where astronauts continued their work. Unaware that alien ships were watching them, Martinez began to cry. The tears started slowly, just moisture gathering in her eyes as she watched a feed of her hometown in Colorado. She could see the mountains in the distance, covered with snow that sparkled in the sunlight. The downtown area looked exactly the same as when she had left 6 months ago for diplomatic training. "That's where I grew up," she said, pointing at the screen. "My family lives just a few blocks from there." A new feed appeared, showing a suburban neighborhood. Martinez recognized it immediately. It was her street, viewed from an alien scout ship hovering invisibly overhead. She could see her parents' house with its blue roof and the garden her mother had spent years perfecting. The tears flowed freely now, running down Martinez's cheeks as she watched her neighborhood go about its normal morning routine. A man was walking his dog. Children were riding bicycles on the sidewalk. Her neighbor, Mrs. Johnson, was watering her flowers. "My brother is probably still asleep," Martinez sobbed. "He always sleeps late during summer break. He's going to start college next month. He wants to study engineering. He's so smart, and he's going to help build better spacecraft for humanity's future among the stars." The other humans watched her cry, feeling their own tears beginning to form. But something else was happening in the corridor outside their cell. The alien guards had begun to back away. At first, it was subtle. A Velkari guard who had been standing near the cell moved to the far end of the corridor. A Thraxian guard suddenly found urgent business elsewhere. The Neridian guards clustered together, their biosuits making bubbling sounds that indicated distress. Dr. Chen noticed the behavior first. "Something's wrong with the guards," she said. Sullivan looked through the barrier and saw that the corridor was nearly empty. The few guards who remained were pressed against the far wall, as far from the human cell as possible. Their various forms of communication were creating a cacophony of sounds. Light patterns, clicking noises, bubbling, and electronic beeps all mixed together in what could only be described as panic. "What's happening?" Parker asked. The guards' panic was spreading. More aliens arrived in the corridor, but they also stayed far away from the cell. An emergency alarm began sounding throughout the detention area. Red lights flashed on the walls. Martinez continued to cry, thinking about her family and her home and everything she would never see again. She did not notice the chaos erupting around their cell. Her tears were just human tears, salt water produced by emotions, that the aliens claimed were too dangerous for galactic civilization. But those tears were causing something that none of the humans understood. The alien guards were experiencing pure terror. "Hi," Consul Vexthara's voice crackled. "Over the detention area's communication system. Emergency Protocol 7. All personnel maintain minimum safe distance from human subjects. Medical teams to detention level 5 immediately." Dr. Chen pressed against the barrier, trying to understand what was happening. "Safe distance from what?" "We're locked in here." The medical teams that arrived were heavily protected, wearing what looked like hazmat suits. They carried scanning equipment and kept well away from the cell. Their scanners beeped frantically as they took readings. Dr. Amy Chen pressed her face against the transparent barrier, watching the alien medical teams work. Their scanning equipment was more advanced than anything she had ever seen, and every device was pointing at their cell. The readings on the screens made no sense to her, but the aliens were clearly agitated by whatever they were detecting. "Look at their biosigns," Chen said to the others. "Every species is showing extreme stress responses." Ambassador Sullivan joined her at the barrier. The corridor was now filled with alien personnel, but they all maintained a careful distance from the cell. Some carried what looked like protective equipment. Others held weapons, though they kept them lowered. "This doesn't make sense," Sullivan said. "We're prisoners in a locked cell. What could they possibly be afraid of?" Lisa Martinez had stopped crying, but tears still glistened on her cheeks. She wiped her face with her sleeve and looked around at the chaos outside their cell. "Did I do something wrong?" Ryan Parker looked up from his computer. "I'm intercepting dozens of emergency communications. Every ship in the fleet is reporting the same thing. They're detecting what they call biochemical warning signatures from this detention area." "Warning signatures for what?" Chen asked. Before Parker could answer, the crowd in the corridor parted. High Consul Vexthara approached, but even she stopped several meters away from the cell. Her crystal body pulsed with rapid light patterns that indicated extreme agitation. Behind her came representatives from all 12 species of the Alliance, each maintaining careful distance. "Emergency containment protocols are now in effect," Vexthara announced. "This detention facility is under immediate quarantine." "Containment from what?" Sullivan demanded. "We're human beings, not biological weapons." Vexthara's light pattern shifted to a deep red color. "You are correct. You are not weapons. You're something far more dangerous." A Thraxian scientist stepped forward, its 6 arms holding various scanning devices. When it spoke, its translated voice buzzed with nervous energy. "The biochemical analysis is complete. The tears contain the exact molecular signature documented in historical archives." "What historical archives?" Chen asked. Vexthara looked at the other Alliance representatives. They exchanged communications in their various languages before she spoke again. "There are things about galactic history that younger species are not told. Events so terrible that most civilizations choose to forget them." She activated a holographic display that appeared in the air between the cell and the corridor. The image showed a star map of the galaxy, but it looked different from current maps. Entire sectors were marked in red. "This is the galaxy as it existed 12 million years ago," Vexthara explained. At that time, 13 advanced civilizations controlled most of the inhabited systems. They had achieved peace and prosperity that lasted for thousands of years. The hologram changed to show images of various alien species. They looked different from the current Alliance members, but they were clearly intelligent and technologically advanced. "What happened to them?" Sullivan asked. "They were destroyed," Vexthara said simply. All 13 civilizations. Billions of beings. Entire worlds left as lifeless rocks floating in space. The hologram shifted again, showing what looked like battle scenes. Ships exploding, cities burning, planets cracked open like broken eggs. Destroyed by who? Parker asked. Vexthera's light patterns became almost black. By the species known in our archives as the Weeping Ones. The corridor became silent except for the humming of alien technology. Even the various species' unconscious communication sounds had stopped. The Weeping Ones, Chen repeated. What were they? According to the historical records, they were a species similar to yourselves in many ways, Vexithara explained. Bipedal, carbon-based, approximately your size and technological level when first contact was made. A new image appeared in the hologram. The creatures it showed were clearly humanoid, though the image quality was poor. They had 2 arms, 2 legs, and faces that looked remarkably human. They look like us, Martinez whispered. The resemblance is not coincidental, said the Thraxian scientist. Genetic analysis suggests a direct biological relationship. Sullivan felt her heart start beating faster. What kind of relationship? The Weeping Ones possessed a unique biochemical trait, Vexithera continued. When experiencing strong emotions, they produced a liquid secretion from their optical organs. This liquid contained complex molecular chains that triggered instinctual fear responses in most sapient species. Chen understood immediately. Tears, they could cry. Yes, and those tears marked them as apex predators to every other species in the galaxy. It was an evolutionary warning system that had developed over millions of years. The hologram showed more images from the ancient war. The Weeping Ones appeared to be fighting against overwhelming odds, but they were winning. Ship after ship fell to their attacks. How did they destroy 13 civilizations? Sullivan asked. One species against so many? They were unpredictable, Vexithara explained. Other species in the galaxy had evolved in one of 2 directions. Either pure logic, like my people, or programmed behavior patterns, like the Thraxians. The Weeping Ones possessed both logical thinking and powerful emotions that could override logic when necessary. That made them dangerous? Parker asked. It made them impossible to predict or control, the Thraxian scientist said. They would make alliances and then break them when emotions dictated. They would fight hopeless battles and find ways to win through sheer determination. They would sacrifice themselves to save others, or destroy themselves rather than surrender. Chen began to understand. You're afraid of humans because we remind you of them. You do not merely remind us of them, Vexthara said. According to our analysis, you are them. The words hung in the air like a physical presence. The 4 humans stared at the alien leader, trying to process what they had just heard. That's impossible, Sullivan said. Humans evolved on Earth. We have fossil records going back millions of years. 12 million years ago, the Weeping Ones vanished from the galaxy, Vexithera explained. No one knew what happened to them. Some believed they had been destroyed. Others thought they had fled to unknown regions of space. But a few scientists theorized that they had found a way to hide. The hologram changed to show a blue and white planet that looked exactly like Earth. A world far from the galactic core, Vexthara continued. A place where they could start over, perhaps with their memories erased, returning to a more primitive state until they were ready to emerge again. Martinez looked at her hands, still damp with tears. You think we're the descendants of these Weeping Ones? I think you are the Weeping Ones, Vexthara said. Returned to the galaxy after 12 million years of hiding. The Thraxian scientist activated another scanner. The biochemical signature is identical. The molecular structure of human tears matches archived samples from the ancient war to within 99.7% accuracy. Chen felt dizzy. But we don't remember any of this. Human civilization is only a few thousand years old. Memory can be erased, Vexthara said. But biology cannot be changed so easily. You carry the genetic markers of the galaxy's most feared species. Sullivan tried to make sense of it all. So when you detected our tear chemistry during the medical scans, every member of my crew experienced genetic terror response, Vexthara finished. 12 million years of evolutionary programming told them to flee or die. Is that why you plan to invade Earth? Chen asked. Because you're afraid of us? We cannot allow the Weeping Ones to spread through the galaxy again, Vexithara said. 13 civilizations fell to them before. This time we hope to contain the threat before it could grow. Parker looked up from his computer. But we're not the same as your ancient enemies. Humans have built peaceful civilizations. We've never destroyed entire species. You have not had the opportunity, the Thraxian scientist said. But given time and technology, your emotional instability would lead to the same result. Martinez wiped fresh tears from her eyes. So because I cried, you all panicked? You produced the biological signature that has been encoded in our genetic memory for 12 million years, Vexithara explained. It is not a conscious fear. It is deeper than thought, older than civilization. The hologram changed again, showing current star charts. The Alliance controlled a large portion of the galaxy, but there were vast empty regions marked in gray. These are the dead zones, Vexithara said, pointing to the gray areas. Systems where the Weeping Ones fought their final battles. Even after 12 million years, nothing lives there. The planets are sterile, the stars burn cold. It is a monument to their destructive power. Sullivan studied the star map. The dead zones covered enormous areas of space, far larger than Earth's solar system. How many beings died in that ancient war? Conservative estimates suggest over 1 trillion sapient lives were lost, the Thraxian scientist replied. Entire species were erased from existence. Worlds that had supported life for billions of years became barren rock. And you think humans will do the same thing? Chen asked. Your species exhibits the same psychological patterns, Vexithara said. Emotional decision-making, unpredictable behavior, willingness to fight against impossible odds. These traits made the Weeping Ones unstoppable. High Consul Vexithara stepped back from the cell as Lisa Martinez wiped away fresh tears. The crystal being's light patterns had shifted from red to a deep purple that Dr. Chen now recognized as confusion mixed with fear. Around the corridor, alien guards from 12 different species maintained their careful distance, but their body language showed increasing agitation. The fleet is requesting permission to withdraw to the outer system, announced a Thraxian communications officer who had just arrived. Several ships are reporting crew panic and requesting immediate evacuation protocols. Vexithara's light patterns flashed rapidly. Denied. Maintain position until further orders. High Consul, the officer continued. 3 Neridian vessels have already begun emergency departure sequences. Their crews are unable to function this close to the humans. Ambassador Sullivan realized that the balance of power had suddenly shifted. The alien fleet that had seemed so terrifying an hour ago was now falling apart simply because humanity's tear chemistry triggered ancient genetic memories. Consul Vexithara, Sullivan said formally, I believe we need to renegotiate our previous discussion. There is nothing to negotiate, Vexithara replied, but her voice lacked its earlier confidence. You are still prisoners, and Earth will still face the consequences of harboring the Weeping Ones. Ryan Parker looked up from his computer with a grin. Actually, Consul, I don't think that's true anymore. According to the communications I'm intercepting, over 40 ships in your fleet are requesting permission to retreat. Some are already powering down their weapon systems. That is a temporary response, the Thraxian scientist said. Once our crews adapt to your presence, normal operations will resume. Dr. Chen shook her head. No, they won't. You said it yourself, this is genetic memory encoded over 12 million years. You can't just adapt to it like a bad smell. It's hardwired into your DNA. As if to prove her point, a new group of alien personnel entered the corridor. These wore environmental suits and carried what looked like heavy-duty communication equipment. They set up their devices at the far end of the corridor, as far from the human cell as possible. Emergency communication link established. One of them announced, Fleet Command is standing by. A new voice came through the speakers, speaking in the Velkari language but translated immediately. This is Admiral Kethmore commanding the invasion fleet. We are experiencing massive crew displacement across all vessels. Request immediate clarification of containment status for the Weeping Ones. Vexithara moved to the communication device, but kept her distance from the cell. Containment is secure, Admiral. 4 specimens are held in maximum security detention. Understood. However, we are detecting biochemical signatures at levels far exceeding historical records. Some crews are requesting immediate system-wide evacuation. Sullivan stepped closer to the barrier. Admiral, this is Ambassador Kate Sullivan of Earth. I believe you and I should speak directly. Static filled the communication channel as the Alien Fleet Command processed this request. After several minutes, the Admiral's voice returned. Weeping One Leader, what do you want from us? The title sent a chill through the humans. They were no longer prisoners or even diplomats. In the aliens' minds, they had become something far more dangerous. "I want your fleet to withdraw from Earth immediately," Sullivan said firmly, "and I want guarantees that humanity will be left alone to develop naturally, without interference from the Zephyrian Alliance." "That is not possible," Vexthara interrupted. "Your species poses too great a threat to galactic stability." "Does it?" Chen asked. "Or are you just afraid of us because of something that happened 12 million years ago?" Parker held up his computer. "I've been analyzing the alien fleet positions. They're not maintaining attack formation anymore. Most ships are already turning away from Earth. The invasion is falling apart." Captain Morrison's voice suddenly crackled through Sullivan's communication device. The signal was weak but clear. "Ambassador, are you receiving? We're detecting massive movement in the alien fleet. Ships are breaking formation and retreating to defensive positions." "We're here, Captain," Sullivan replied. "And we're negotiating from a position of strength now." On the bridge of Earth's Hope, Morrison watched his sensors in amazement. The 300 alien warships that had surrounded the station were indeed pulling back. Some were moving so quickly they seemed to be fleeing rather than retreating tactically. "What happened down there?" Morrison asked. "We discovered something about human evolution that the aliens find terrifying," Sullivan explained. Lisa Martinez cried, and it triggered panic throughout their entire fleet. "Cried?" Morrison repeated, confused. "It's complicated, Captain. But for now, we need you to monitor the alien withdrawal and prepare for immediate departure once we're released." Admiral Kethmore's voice returned to the speakers. "Weeping One Leader, what assurances can you provide that your species will not repeat the destruction of the ancient war?" Sullivan thought carefully before answering. The wrong words could trigger another conflict. But she also had to protect humanity's interests. "Admiral, the Weeping Ones of ancient times made a choice to sacrifice their civilization rather than continue destroying the galaxy. Modern humanity inherited that wisdom along with their biology. We seek peace and cooperation, not conquest. But you possess the same emotional volatility that made them unpredictable," Vexithera said. "Yes," Chen agreed. "And that volatility allows us to make choices that pure logic cannot. Sometimes the illogical choice is the right choice." Martinez stepped forward, her cheeks still damp with tears. "Our emotions make us capable of love, sacrifice, and forgiveness. The same feelings that can drive us to fight also drive us to protect those who cannot protect themselves." The alien guards backed away further, as fresh tears appeared on her face. But she continued speaking. "Maybe the galaxy has become too cold, too logical. Maybe you need beings who can cry, who can feel joy and sorrow and hope. Maybe that's why the ancient Weeping Ones chose to start over instead of just disappearing completely." Admiral Kethmore was quiet for several minutes. When he spoke again, his voice carried a different tone. "The fleet will withdraw to a distance of 10 light-years from Earth. We will establish a monitoring station to observe human development, but there will be no direct interference." "Not good enough," Sullivan said firmly. "Humanity must be free to develop without surveillance. We'll agree to limited contact protocols and a non-aggression pact, but Earth remains sovereign." "You are not in a position to make demands," Vexthera said, though her light patterns showed uncertainty. "Actually, we are," Parker said, looking up from his computer. "I'm reading communications from 17 different ships requesting immediate departure authorization." "Your fleet is disintegrating." As if to emphasize the point, a new voice came through the speakers. "Hi, Consul, this is Captain Zareth of the vessel Stormdancer. My crew is unable to maintain combat readiness. Requesting permission to withdraw to the edge of the system." "Denied," Vexithara replied. "Hi, Consul, my crew is experiencing complete genetic terror syndrome. We cannot remain in proximity to the Weeping Ones. I am implementing emergency evacuation protocols with or without authorization." The communication channel filled with similar requests from other ships. The organized alien fleet was becoming a chaotic retreat, as crews across multiple species succumbed to instinctual fear. Sullivan realized this was her moment. "Admiral Kethmore, I propose a simple solution. Your fleet withdraws completely from Earth's solar system. In return, humanity agrees to a century-long non-aggression pact and limited diplomatic contact through neutral stations like this one." "And if humanity develops into a threat like the ancient Weeping Ones?" the Admiral asked. "Then you'll have a century to prepare for that possibility," Chen said. "But I believe you'll find that modern humans are more interested in exploration and cooperation than conquest." The decision is not mine alone, Admiral Kethmore said. I must consult with the full Alliance Council. Then I suggest you do so quickly, Sullivan replied. Because according to our readings, your fleet is already retreating whether you authorize it or not. The next 2 hours passed in tense negotiations conducted through the long-range communication system. The Alliance Council debated in emergency session while their fleet continued to fall apart around Earth. By the time they reached a decision, nearly half the alien ships had already withdrawn beyond the solar system's edge. The final agreement was simple. Earth would be granted full sovereignty with a guaranteed sphere of influence extending 50 light-years in all directions. Humanity would agree to a non-aggression pact lasting 100 years, during which time any territorial expansion would be conducted through peaceful negotiation. Contact would be limited to designated neutral zones, with no alien presence allowed in Earth's solar system without explicit human permission. As the negotiations concluded, the detention cell door finally opened. The 4 humans walked out into the corridor, where alien guards maintained careful distance but no longer pointed weapons at them. You are free to return to your ship, Vexus Thara announced. The treaty documents will be transmitted to Earth within 1 standard day. Sullivan nodded diplomatically. Thank you, Consul.